The civil rights movement wasn't only happening in classrooms, it was happening in places all over the South. One example is lunch counter sit ins. What would happen would be a group of students, typically high school and college age, black and white, would go sit at the counter and they would order. This was a big deal because it was illegal in most establishments for blacks to order at the counter. They were typically expected to order from the back door or from the back of the restaurant. So they would be refused service. In being refused service, they would refuse to get up and they would just sit there and politely ask to be able to order. This typically resulted in violence. Oftentimes, customers in the store would come to the so called aid of the people behind the counter, and they would harass and torment the people that were part of the movement. Here is a good example of both college age black and white students participating in a protest together. Other protests include marches. Now, Selma was one of the most segregated areas of the South. And this is where Martin Luther King focused a lot of his attention. So, just to bring attention to what was taking place in terms of segregation, they would march from one distance to another, really to enlighten the crowd on what was taking place and to bring awareness. Another example would be the March on Washington. Same idea. Bring attention to their cause and their focus. All of these measures of protest are done in peace. Violence typically only came from the opposite end, the people that did not want them there. In addition to the March on Washington, you should also be aware that this is where Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech took place on August 28, 1963. Now, the momentum for all these movements is going to build with time, and we're going to see different kind of movements. And what we'll have you do in the next segment is compare two different movements that took place. In May of 1961, there were the Freedom Riders. They tried to desegregate bus stations and travel from state to state. Okay, September 1962, we see the integrating of the University of Mississippi. April 1963, Birmingham. June 1963, the integration of the University of Alabama. By August 1963, we have the March on Washington and the Freedom Summer of 1964. Here, college-age students, again, both black and white, will go deep into the heart of Mississippi to try to register voters. So these are just a few examples of the civil rights movements that took place.